Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. So, we've seen that online communities serve as a powerful catalyst for turning customer engagement into unwavering loyalty. They definitely provide a unique environment where customers can connect, learn, and support each other, creating a sense of belonging that goes beyond transactional relationships. When nurtured and managed effectively, these communities become the cornerstone of customer success and brand loyalty. And to throw some light on this topic, we have seasoned community experts with us today. To moderate this session, I'd like to invite Varun Luthra, Country Manager, ANZ Region at ZT Interactive. With over 10 years of experience in working and building amazing communities, Varun loves to help brands effectively connect with their customers and provide them with strategies that align with their business objectives. As a country manager for ANZ region at Braziti, his workdays are centered around managing our Fortune 100 customers, communities, customer success, and driving sales pipeline. So here's Varun with our next panel discussion, achieving customer success by transforming engagement into loyalty. The stage is all yours, Varun.
Thank you so much, Sana. Hello and welcome everyone. And looking forward to a great session on the customer success. And this is one thing where everybody talks about the customer success, but only a few have achieved it. But today we've got two very important and seasoned experts who've done it over and over again. So I would like to welcome our first panelist, Chris Dishman, Senior Vice President, Global Customer Success at Tatango. Hi, Chris.
Hey there.
Great. And we also would like to welcome David Gunn, Vice President of Customer Success at Linear B. Hey, David. Yeah, David, you're on mute. And
there we go. Hopefully
Okay.
the last technical issues of the conference, but thank you. Happy to be here, Varun.
Absolutely. And of course, to all the attendees, I request all of you to feel free to post any questions throughout the session. We'll make sure we cover most of those. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. Right, Chris, I'll start with you. Can you share some insights on how the community leaders over the world, can acquire the new users, retain the current ones, and sort of convert them into the repeat buyers through the community experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think when we think about, driving a seamless community experience, the first thing we have to do is we have to kind of acknowledge that community is going to exist whether we create it or not, right? So, Erica Brooks, who's a CMO of Higher Logic, had mentioned, she said in a conversation I had with her, she was like, community is always there. The question is whether or not you're involved in the dialogue, and whether you're helping to really kind of direct and guide that discussion, right? So the first thing is we have to just acknowledge that the value of community is there. Secondly, we've got to make the value of that community kind of sticky, right? We have to provide something in there from a value perspective that's going to create value for the people, for the members in that community. So, from my perspective and from what I've done in the past, we want to take a real consultative approach when we engage with those customers, right? So we want to make sure that we understand, not just the what customers need, but how they need it and how they want to engage with us, whether that's, chat, whether that's message boards, workshops, and then also understand why and how, that we're going to engage with them from that standpoint. The other piece of this is kind of interesting, which is testing and learning, right? So when we think about creating a valuable experience for our customers, we don't always know all of the right answers when we launch on an endeavor like that. And so it's important that we iterate through that process. So, test and learn what you're doing within the community. How are people responding and reacting? Specifically at Tatango, we've done this recently where we launched a coffee chat series, and that went exceptionally well. We had a expert talk for a few minutes and then open up to Q&A about a given topic or a specific element within our product. But then we tried a little different slant on that, where it was like, okay, let's just put people into breakout rooms and let them talk amongst themselves, and it failed miserably. So, so there are things like that where you have to kind of understand that you don't know everything about it. So you have to be, able to kind of test and learn and understand, areas of the right approach for the community and the people that you're reaching out to. And then I guess the last thing that I would say is, really drive a solid feedback loop through that community, right? So, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to hear a lot from your customers through that community. So if you don't take that information, make sure that they understand that you heard it, action it, and make sure that they understand that you actioned it, and create a kind of a repeatable, scalable process within that realm. Then you will ultimately lose that community, because people want to be heard. They want to understand that you understand what their focus is and what the value is for them, and then ultimately that will drive a deeper engagement and deeper community experience for your users.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Chris. I think really thinking about the customer needs first in the community is really clutch.
Yeah,
when you're trying to drive new customers in there, they're looking at that community and they're really trying to figure out, what is that vibe here? What is the current customer base talking about? Are the community managers responsive? Are they engaging? Is this a community I want to be a part of and a brand I want to be associated with? And I think if you can really make that early first impression, you're going to get some people in the door. But you've got to really make sure that long-term, those existing customers, they're getting some value out of that interaction, right? It has to be worth the time. It has to be worth bookmarking the site so they come back to it. And you got to make sure that they're not just shouting into the void and arguing with each other. It's about making connections and showing that your company is listening as well.
Yeah, 100%.
No, absolutely. I think community, as we know, is at the heart and soul of the customer success, and we want to make sure that, and of course, everything gets nurtured here, and it's rightly so, the right platform to make sure that the customers are heard, and that's how you get your champions and advocates ultimately. And of course, we've spoken a lot about how we do that, how we retain them. But what about aligning, the business objectives then around what your customers are looking for, making them the customer centric? Any opinions on that?
Is that for me, Varun? Sorry about that.
Yeah, for you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. So, business objectives. It's interesting when we think about, aligning our business objectives around member centricity or customer centric. It's really about the customer objectives, right? So, speaking from a true CS perspective, it's like, to me, I want to start with, our business objectives really have to be tied to what those customers' objectives are. And kind of like what David was saying before, there has to be some understanding and sense of the value that we're driving towards that customer, and what they need, and then providing that value, so that we can ultimately, for our business objectives, might be retention, growth, again, advocacy from that standpoint. So, and as I think about the business objectives and specifically our customer objectives, I just finished a podcast the other day on sales and CS and the interlock and alignment between sales and CS. And one of the things we spoke extensively on was how important it is to take the customer objective that we learn about when we're doing that value-based selling on the front end, and then carrying that all the way through the customer journey, right? Through the onboarding, through the implementation, through adoption and expansion of the customer. And then that has to translate into that community experience as well, right? So we will learn tremendous things about our customers, about what's important to our customers. And then ultimately, when we think about that customer centricity, we can relay that and communicate that through our organization. You think about the things that you learn in a valuable community from your customers, where they are speaking freely kind of amongst themselves and in guided conversations with you. You're learning about the product, you're learning about, what is important to that customer. You're learning about, from a marketing standpoint, where you need to really drive and attach your focus. So there's a lot of things that we can do from that standpoint that we really need to kind of drive, through our own organizations as well. So,
yeah, cool. David, your thoughts on that? You share the same opinion?
Yeah, no, I think that really getting alignment here on not just the needs of the customers, but also how that aligns to your business objectives is key.
Right.
I think, when we're looking at this, you want to be really thinking about making sure that you're translating, these insights that you're getting from customers into actionable insights for the relevant parties at your organization. So if you're hearing a lot of discussion about feature requests and things like that, this is great insight to take back to the product team. If you're hearing, positive experiences about, the sales process, you want to be able to share that. You want to be able to take that back, as well as the negative feedback. Hey, just so you know, people are talking about this. This didn't go over well. You are that voice of the customer. And I think it's really important that you're not just listening, but you're sharing that insight back with the rest of the company and the other stakeholders that are involved.
Yeah, 100%.
Great. And I see a question posted as well on the Q&A. So any of you want to take that? It's how do organizations quantify the impact of community-driven customer success? And what metrics are crucial in measuring the effectiveness of these initiatives?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll take a first swing at it, David.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. There are a number of ways that people and reasons why somebody might want to drive a community-driven kind of CS motion. A lot of times that could be, quite frankly, ticket deflection, right? You could be using it to help in your support initiatives, and you might launch a solid community that ultimately you can see a reduction in your overall ticket volume or a reduction in the time, that it takes to resolve specific tickets and some of the tier 1 tickets you might be getting. The other thing is, we always track CSQLs or CSQOs, right? So CS qualified leads or opportunities. You can certainly track that from a community driven as well, right? You're going to get opportunities that arise through the community. You've got to make sure that you're tracking those as well. So, you could feasibly fund, the costs around driving a community initiative simply through some of the additional growth opportunities you could derive out of that. Just as David was saying a minute ago, we're going to learn a ton through that community. If we're paying attention, we can easily look at and understand, okay, yeah, somebody saw something that they liked. They didn't realize they didn't have this feature in your product, and maybe that's an upsell feature. And so now you've got an opportunity for some growth there, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of track some of the initial, measures around effectiveness of a CS community. So David, what are your thoughts? What did I miss?
No, I think you're hitting a lot of the great topics. It's funny how many of the things that you're saying are showing up on my notes as well. But I think, the big thing to be thinking about here is the question, the person who submitted the question was getting at is like, when you're thinking of measuring the effectiveness of these initiatives, you got to think about the audience that you're trying to report back to, right? And so all of these need to be actionable insights. So when you're thinking about metrics that you want to report up, take a step deeper. So, thinking beyond just like, hey, active numbers, that's great. But activity by source, like where are these members coming from? That's something that is really impactful for, your marketing team. If you're looking at, champion identification and engagement, these are people that you can then come back through and lead to case studies for your marketing team. These are people that are great for advisory councils for your sales and product team. If you're looking at like CS metrics that matter to me, you're looking at, churn rate, engagement rate. Like these are customers, like if you're seeing a customer go from an active community participant to ghosting your community all of a sudden, that's a really clear indication of a major churn risk. So thinking about all of these different metrics that, these are nice little notes on a dashboard, but they translate into business outcomes. And I think it's really important to make that connection as a CS leader.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I see that missed not just in community, but in CS as a whole, right? There's a lot of things around adoption metrics and things like that don't get tied out to ultimate metrics that matter, and you're not drawing the line to retention or to adoption or to growth or expansion, in a leading way as opposed to a lagging measure. So, and doing that within the communities is just as critical as it is with any other aspect of the business, for sure. So, great call.
A great point. And also, let's touch, briefly on, now that we've seen the bots on the community. So let's also talk, briefly from the AI perspective as well. How you've seen in your recent experience, AI coming in and sort of elevating or maybe augmenting, the teams to make sure that the customer success process is even smoother. So, share your thoughts
on AI specifically.
Yeah.
So I've been. This is kind of the buzzword of the moment, right? Everybody's really talking about it, and I think that there are. I would say you need to kind of segment this into two categories. There is AI that's trained on kind of large language models and kind of general data sets, which is really helpful for having helping somebody craft a message, right? And like, hey, help me build out this message that sounds authentic and whatever. That's easy to do. Taking it further and using AI and training it on your own knowledge base, so that you can get more insights into your own product, into your own company. It takes a lot more early investment. But I do think that that's where you're going to see a lot of payoff down the line. And that's where you can start to see more economies of scale, easier response times, speeding up ticket resolution, things like that. But it's not as simple as just, write me a message. It's knowing the information and having the AI trained on that insight. That's really that next level that I think we're going to be all focusing on in the next year or two.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because when you think about AI, so from Tatango's perspective, we've been slowly kind of working, I say slowly is a interesting concept these days because AI is just blasting forward. So, we've got a number of different elements within our Tatango platform around AI, and just kind of like what you mentioned, David, generative AI. We partner with Jasper and have some specifics around, just creating content, so you can drop in a prompt and it'll do a response email, things like that. So then what starts getting interesting is you start getting derived understanding and summaries from given customers and things like that, and start feeding information in that's a little bit more specific. So and then to your point, taking that and learning specifics around how your customers are acting, behaving, et cetera, and then driving outcomes to those customers through that is something that's a lot more specific. It's this heavier lift than just plugging in some sort of generative connection, right? And then it's interesting because you think about specific to this, when we're thinking about community and AI, if you've posted on LinkedIn recently, you go in and there's an AI bot on there and it says, hey, do you want me to post something for you? And you go, yeah. And you give it a topic and it creates it for you. And you're like, okay, well, that's not fair. I mean, where's the thought behind this thing? But when you think about community, if I'm able to do some of those things as well for my team, and if I've got CSMs and if I've got marketing leaders and product people that are all contributing to this community, to be able to have AI as a portion of that helps streamline creation of content that's going to help support what customers are needing and looking for, then absolutely, that's a great way and a great leverage of the tool. So.
Yeah, great. And I think it also becomes very important that we draw a line as well, because we're talking about customer success and we just do not want to leave it completely in the hands of AI, right? So I think that's a very sensitive area, because we just want to make sure we get the success that we are looking for.
Right.
To
that, one other note to that, Varun, is it's interesting because we took the approach early on when AI started kind of bubbling up. We were like, okay, the initial thought is everybody's like, okay, I'm a CSM, but I'm not going to be a CSM anymore because it's all going to go to the AI bot of some sort, right? And we certainly don't feel that way. I mean, I think it's AI plus people is kind of our approach, and what we really feel is realistic. If we can leverage the technology to help streamline some of the processes for the people, and then help those CSMs then get a little bit more strategic and how they're leveraging their time and resources around, how they interact and support a customer and their value attainment, 100% perfect, right? And that's kind of where we see the value of AI, even short and long term. There are certainly some things where I think, like chat type scenarios and support, David, like you were mentioning, to be able to have AI speak to and provide answers to somebody asking a fairly simple question that's technical. Heck yeah, that's awesome. And that can streamline that approach for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think anything you can do to free up some bandwidth from your CSMs is really important. In this market, in this climate, every CS leader I talk to is being told, do more with less, right? That's kind of the mantra that we're all faced with. And so if we can use AI to streamline some of the engagements and kind of remove some of those repetitive tasks so that the CSMs have more time for relationship building and deeper insight, I think that's when you're going to really see the value come through.
Yeah.
So I think the takeaway here would be to sort of templatize, the basic things that AI can filter through to the humans at the other end.
Yeah, and I think it's important to keep in mind that, I think a lot of people think about this in terms of like high touch CS, and really using it there. Low touch CS, getting it really super engaged with your smaller customers. But a lot of the work that you're getting from AI and through automation can really help, again, remove some of the daily tasks from your enterprise CS folks, and really allow them to do more. If you can help them like automate away re-authenticating, your Git provider or whatever you need to do, it really does help them think more about what's the relationship like, what do I need to do, where do I need to go to get that renewal, and not what's the tactical thing I need to do today.
Right. And it's interesting because I think you can apply that same concept across any aspect of, the customer journey from that standpoint. I mean, we deal with that into Tango every day, which is essentially creating that customer journey that, and for the long tail customers, for your scaled, digital only customers, maybe that's kind of your foundation. But like you said, David, that absolutely kind of layers into some of the larger customers, some of your more strategic customers, just because you're reducing the risk or the involvement that a CSM has in, I don't want to call it menial, but tactical daily activities, but you're allowing them to think and be a little bit more strategic as it relates to how they interact with the customers that they have, which is super helpful. And it's funny, we're trying to stay away from the do less with more, because it just sounds, I don't know, I don't like the way it sounds, but we're trying to say do different with different, or do different with less, right? I mean, because, truly we are trying to achieve the same results and even better results. And we just have to be really smart in how we use technology to do that.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just one final question on the AI part. I mean, since I think the last few questions on that definitely requires this one as a follow-up. So which particular area, would you not let the AI be a part of in this overall journey? We've spoken about templatizing it and making sure it filters through to the humans on the other end. But of course, there might be some sensitive areas you would not let AI be a part of as of now.
So I think if we're thinking about kind of like entry-level AI, the generative script, like writing out messages and things like that, I think that it's fine to have the system write out a message, have it suggest to the CSM, hey, here's something you could potentially say, but you still need that CSM there that has that human relationship to come in and have a little bit of veto power, to be able to come in and say, no, I'm not sending that message out right now, because I know as a human talking to my human customer that the reason they haven't logged in this week is because they're out on maternity leave. It's not, it's not something that the AI has picked up on and is sending out a message that could be read as annoying or insensitive. So having a little bit of like just human intervention to sanity check the automation, I think is clutch.
Yeah. I think that's I think it's important. It kind of goes back to the human plus AI, right? Like there has to be some level of oversight on that, especially in some of your more strategic accounts where you have that insight. The other thing too, Varun, and this is something that as we've started deploying, various forms of AI, it's not, everybody gets really excited about it. They're like, oh, I want to have that, because they logged in on their personal machine and went to ChatGPT and created a summary of something. But then when you start talking about, I'm going to take customer sensitive data, PII, and I'm going to pump that into some sort of LLM, it's like, time out. I got news for you. A lot of you are not going to be able to do that. And so you start talking with some of your compliance folks and some of the internal people at your organization, you realize, that we can't use that, because we're taking, to get the most value out of AI, you're going to have to put whatever you put into it's what you're going to get out of it. And so if you can't put really important information in, then you're not going to be able to get, that same level of information out. And so, there are some things around that from a security and compliance and, what exactly you want to put out there, so to speak. So there's definitely some interesting challenges as it relates to that, for sure.
That's just a GDPR headache waiting to happen.
Oh my gosh, yes. So
perfect. I think we probably just have time for one more question, and let's see if we have something in the chat. Okay, any examples of successful businesses that have transformed the online engagement into long-term customer loyalties? Any specific tactics that they use to achieve this?
Yeah, I saw it a lot, especially during the heaviest era of the pandemic. With REI is a great example. They're a retailer that has a big focus on getting outside and really engaging, and they have a great in-store engagement model, very friendly, super engaged. And when you can't go in the store anymore, as was the case during the peak of COVID, they had to find other ways of really engaging with their community. And so they were leveraging their online community really heavily during that period, getting people talking about different equipment that people were looking at, different hikes and trails and outdoor meetups that people could do safely, and really leveraging that relationship long term, even if you couldn't do it in person anymore. And I think that was really critical for them to kind of keep that momentum going, and keep people engaging online, even when they may not be able to come into the stores.
Yeah. One that I would say is Gain, Grow, Retain is a community for CS people. And Jay and Jeff over there kind of started that really at the beginning of the pandemic, just because of the same thing. People couldn't get involved. There were no meetups, there were no in-person meetings, and yet as a CS community, we wanted a place to be able to connect and engage. And so they launched Gain, Grow, Retain, which has sustained and really done an exceptional. And it's a great community. If you're in customer success, if you haven't seen it yet, go sign up for sure. Here's a plug. But ultimately, it's a great opportunity to be able to go and kind of learn and dig into some of the specific details around customer success, and just a great community, great opportunity there as well.
I'm adding that to my my podcast list right now, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I think with that, we are on time. There she is.
Sana is here to give us the hook, get us off the stage.
Perfect.
That was such an engrossing session, you guys, especially the part where you spoke about customer objectives and how they should be aligned with your business objectives. And of course, the AI part, that was amazing. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, David. Thank you, Varun, for such meaningful takeaways with us. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you both.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you. And that said, with our last session, let's quickly join in our closing keynote, and I will see you there.